Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, then don't forget to subscribe down below. And without much further ado, let's get on with the video. Hello everyone. Today we're going to be discussing It Chapter 2. First off, I loved it. I loved every gosh darn second of it. When it finished, the first thing I wanted to do was just turn to my mum and go, that was amazing. And I did actually do many chef's kisses at the fact that I love the film. I love what they chose to do with the plot, with the nods to the book, nods to the original miniseries, all that fun stuff. One thing I do want to start off with saying, because I know I got questions on it, is which do I prefer? Chapter 1 or Chapter 2? And for me, they are incomparable because they are a thing that you have to watch together, therefore I see it as one giant 5.5-hour or whatever it is film. So for me, I can't choose a favourite. They both have their moments that are just... I almost cut my lip. So of course, like always with my film reviews, we're going to take to Instagram, where I got quite a few questions from you guys asking me my opinions on It Chapter 2 and just things that you guys wanted me to discuss. And someone did say no spoilers please, but it's me, and spoiler-free reviews for me are kind of boring and pointless because you can't talk about anything other than, wow, I love the film because of this thing that I can't tell you. So this is going to be very much spoilered. Full of spoilers. Did you find any Easter eggs in the movie? There was quite a few Easter eggs that I found. The guy that owns the antique store where Bill gets Silverback from, it's Stephen King, okay? The author of it. The second one is the director, Andy, not even going to try and pronounce his last name because I will fail. He is in the scene when Eddie goes to the chemist to pick up his inhaler. When Pennywise says, "Kiss me, fat boy," that was in the It miniseries. I don't know if it's in the book at all because I haven't finished the book, but I have started the book. The guy that played the original Ben was in the scene with new Ben when he was in the board meeting, which was really cool. Another question that I see a lot around the internet and also at me is, do you prefer Bill Skarsgård's Pennywise or Tim Curry's Pennywise? And it's another one of those, it's incomparable. They do such a different take of Pennywise. I had a friend, he knows who he is, say that he's not gonna bother watching the It miniseries because he's seen It Chapter 1 and It Chapter 2 and they've been said to be the best versions of it. And I'm like, honey, you should still watch the It miniseries because there's more in it. They do different things. They have different versions of characters. We're gonna go to the general thoughts about the casting of the adults. I guess it's just the adults. Obviously, you have the losers, okay? There's 7 losers. They each have an adult counterpart. But one thing I want to quickly touch upon is, I don't know the character's name, but the girl that's the chemist's daughter, and she pops a lot of bubblegum in the first one. The actress who plays the adult version, it was so spot on. I laughed. I laughed way too much in this film, and I probably annoyed the people around me, but it was just so funny to me because I was like, that is spot on. Another one, obviously is Bowers. I think the guy that was chosen to play Bowers as an adult was perfect. The way he runs out of the hospital, I literally saw the kid grown up. It was perfect. I loved that. Also, another one to touch upon, another casting choice. Eddie's wife is the same actress that plays Eddie's mum, and I think that is the funniest part of the film because there's a line, I think it's in the film, it might have been in an interview, I'm not sure, but basically it's saying that Eddie married his mother, which is literally true because he married We're gonna go on to the adult cast, and as we have here, we have James McAvoy as the adult version of Bill. I loved all of the casting. I thought it was great. The only thing I felt was that James McAvoy here, I saw as James McAvoy, but on a second viewing, I did like it a lot more, and there are certain things that he does that kind of is the same as how young Bill did, and I think it was the little hints that made me accept him. We're now gonna go on to Isaiah Mustafa. I really hope I pronounced that right, but he obviously plays Mike Hanlon, and I again thought he was very well cast. I believed that he was an older version. There were certain things that he would do that the younger version did do. When he gets flustered about something, it was the same, I saw the same thing, if that makes any sense. I mean, I'm really just gonna be they're all great because they're all great, but it's really cool. Now we come on to Jay Ryan, who obviously plays Ben Hanscom. I, again, really liked him. It's the same vein of James McAvoy, Jessica Chastain, and him. I saw them more as themselves than the characters, but again, there were points where I did actually see Ben, but older, which was really cool. And also, he's just really attractive, and I don't I don't understand where it suddenly came from that, like, yes, but, like, yes. Now we come on to Jessica Chastain, and if you're not a fan of Jessica Chastain, I honestly don't understand. I loved her in this film. Her reactions to certain moments, like, if you recall at the end of the film, Richie rips off its arm, and Jessica Chastain's reaction is like a, ew. And it's just the little things. Also, the entire Chinese restaurant scene, I love anyway. Like, I love that scene in general, but her reactions to things were just really funny. And yeah, but again, I saw her as Jessica Chastain more than I did Beverly Marsh. But I really liked her, so that's her. Richie Tozier, okay, played by the one, the only Bill Hader. I love Bill Hader. If you guys have watched Saturday Night Live, Stefan is one of my favourite things to have ever come out of that show. I love that character, I love the sketches, and choosing Bill Hader was probably the smartest decision that the It producers have ever made, because he is an adult Finn Wolfhard, and I just thought that was so good. Also, all the comedy that he brought to it, a lot of it was ad-lib, and you can tell that he, like, enjoys it. And obviously I'm going to get into it in more detail, but the way they chose to take Richie's character in this version, I adored so much, and I was not expecting Bill Hader to kind of kick it out the park. That's not the right phrase. I was not expecting Bill Hader to give me that much emotion and, like, feelings, and I wasn't prepared, but I loved every goddamn second. The last, like, 20 minutes of that film is just Richie, and I love so much. And I love the fact that Bill Hader was like, look guys, if you're gonna go down the homosexual route with Richie's character and you're actually gonna, like, hint to it a bit more, do it. Don't go around and, like, queer bait and that, do it. And I think the way they did it is quite good, because obviously if you are homosexual, like myself, it's very easy to kind of not, like, fit into that character, but kind of relate to the character, and you see it, you read it as gay. But then I know that a couple of my friends who aren't homosexual don't read it as gay, they just read it as, like, really close friendship, which I think is really good, because it doesn't offend the people that are like, oh my god, there's a gay person in this film, we've got to boycott it now because we can't do that. Beauty and the Beast, I'm looking at you, even though it was literally a look. Now we're going on to Andy Bean, who plays Stanley Uris, obviously only in it for a very, very short amount of time, but I can't express how creepy I find it that they look so alike. I obviously knew what was going to happen. I knew that Stanley's character does die, which it was still sad. Like, I knew it was coming, and I was just like, oh, it's just... And I like how they kind of tied it in why he did it, leaving the note for them to read at the end, being like, I'm too scared. Like, that's what I love. There was this raw fear that usually you don't necessarily see in films anyway, because it's always like the adults have got to be, like, not scared of anything. It's kind of become a societal norm for, like, adults, but specifically adult men, to not be scared of things and not be fearful, and not be emotional and all that kind of stuff, which is one of the most stupid things that's ever come out of society, because everyone breaks down, okay? And it's not a fun thing, and we should be talking about that more. But in this film, obviously I know there's a killer clown, it's an out-of-this-world creature who eats worlds, like, it's not a real situation, but the fact they touch on it and they do it in a way that's like, he was just terrified, and they kind of established that adults can be scared too. I don't know where I'm going with this, but I just really liked him, and I thought he was a good choice of actor. Finally, we come on to one of my favourite written characters in the world. I realised this watching the second film, that I love Eddie Kaspbrak so goddamn much that it hurt so much seeing him die 2 times now in this version, and then also seeing him die in the miniseries, okay? I love him, and James Ranson, I don't know if you pronounce the, like, I don't know how to pronounce the name, but James, he is Eddie. Like, he literally is, they are the same. They are one and the same. There were certain things that the original Eddie did that James brought to it again, and it was just so goddamn perfect. And you know how perfect it is when they can do one of those shots where it blends the 2 faces together, you know, the bit in The Chemist. That was just art. Them, of course, looking the same is one thing, but for James to literally embody the way that Eddie has already been portrayed, but as an adult version, it was literally like seeing Jack Dylan Grazer grown up. Like, it's simple. It was just art. Absolute art. And of course, I think one of my favourite scenes is when Eddie gets a knife to the face and he's just like, dude, God, I love Eddie so much and I'm really sad. And that actually brings me on to another question that was asked, and that was, well, basically a lot of you have just written Eddie, and I'm guessing you mean like Eddie's death. Eddie! Oh no, Eddie died. And I had one specific question asking me like what I thought of Eddie's death, like was I expecting it, blah blah blah. I've been expecting it for the past 2 months when I realised, because obviously I have seen the miniseries and I know the plot of it. I know that Eddie dies. I realised this 2 months ago and kind of just went, oh, I'm gonna have to watch Eddie die again in a new way. So going into the film, I knew it was gonna happen. Eddie gets a tentacle spider-leg arm through the chest and then he's like puppeteered around by Pennywise, and it's like, why? That it hurts so much, okay? Like, just seeing Eddie die was one thing, but then to have like the Richie like love side of it, I broke. I was just sitting there like, this is so sad, and I knew that it was gonna happen, but why do they have to make it so much harder for me? Like, the film starts off gay and then ends gay. Okay, yes, the first bit is one of the most triggering things I've ever seen in my life. It makes me so uncomfortable because it happens, and I think that's another thing which I want to touch upon actually. That first scene, if you haven't read the book, it's in the book. I got worried because what it looked like is, if you don't know that it's already in the book, it does look like that they decided to adapt this version to have that included so they could talk about being gay, but then not have any like moral message to it other than like beat up the gays, because that's what it looked like from an outsider's point of view that has no idea about the plot of it. It just felt like a social commentary kind of thing if you didn't know, but it does obviously start off painting the picture to kind of show how Derry doesn't accept gay people in any shape or form, and that's why Richie was always scared to come out, and it kind of starts off that narrative of this idea that Richie can't come out because everything and everyone around him will attack him, and that's sometimes scarier than a man-eating clown. Did it actually scare you? I didn't really find it that scary. One thing that I have found with it is that I am not scared of this guy in any shape or form. Like, he does not creep me out. I'm so like enthralled by his performance that it doesn't scare me, if that makes sense. Like, I think he does such a good job at being a terrifying clown that it's no longer terrifying to me because I'm just so interested in his performance, you know? I was more creeped out and uncomfortable than scared. This is why I love horror so much, because everyone gets this preconceived idea that a horror isn't a horror unless you get jump scared, which is a lie, okay? You don't have to have jump scares in a horror. It's not needed. It's a token of a horror film, okay? But putting a jump scare in your film doesn't make it a horror film. So, you know, there's so much more to horror, and this is why people that go, oh, I don't like horrors because they make me jump. Like, it's like, well, that's because you're watching the wrong kind of horrors, okay? There are psychological horrors, there are thrillers, there's a lot more out there. Anyway, that's going off topic onto jump scares, which it does have. I just can read them now, and usually I don't get jump scared. But I will say, the thing that scared me was when Bowers is pulling the balloon from underneath the bed, because I obviously knew something was going to be behind the balloon, but overfilled balloons that make that noise, I don't like, okay? I once accidentally fell onto a balloon and it popped really loud and it scared the absolute crap out of me. So overfilled balloons I don't like, and I don't like when people do the thing. That was weird. People making balloon animals stresses me out because I'm like, you're putting too much pressure on that balloon, it's gonna pop. Oh my god, it's like literally like me. But no, that was the only bit because I knew that it was gonna pop. Not because of anything else. I wasn't scared of his friend coming out from underneath the bed looking like a creepy zombie. I thought that makeup was amazing. If it was makeup, it could have been CGI, but I don't know. Did I like the ending? Look, I think it was so funny, the fact that Pennywise became a literal pancake, or a flat raisin, or whatever you want to call him. I think it was hilarious, so I kind of accepted the ending because I found it so funny. I think the rest of the film was so good that no matter what ending was given to me, I'd have accepted and loved, so I loved it. We're gonna go on to talking about this lad a bit more because we haven't done that yet. Bill Skarsgård as Pennywise. I love him a lot. I think he's an amazing actor. The fact that he gets into character so well and he blooming terrorizes everyone, and he does it like 5 minutes before he starts a scene, and then he goes into the scene, and then afterwards he's like, everyone chill, cool. I think that is beautiful. But 2 questions that I have is, one, did I think that he got enough screen time as Pennywise, because obviously Bill Skarsgård only plays Pennywise. The true form of it was very odd, and I didn't know how to feel about it the first time, but then I realised, like, I would have been mad if we didn't see him as Pennywise, so, like, everything's fine. But him as Pennywise, I read that he only is actually Pennywise as the clown for 10 minutes of the film, which I don't know how true that is, but that's what I read. And I loved every second that he was in it. I would have liked to see a tad more of him, but I guess it's more of a sense of they're not really scared of Pennywise as a clown. Like, they're not scared of a clown anymore. They're more scared of the idea of Pennywise, if that makes sense. So, like, they have bigger things to be scared about, which is their childhood and the childhood trauma they went through, that it doesn't need to show itself in the form of Pennywise, because it can show itself in the form of their childhoods when they fought Pennywise. Does that make any sense? Like, I mean, like, when Beverly is in the stool and all the blood comes out, or Ben's in the little clubhouse, like, and he's getting buried alive, like, they have bigger fears than a clown. The other thing that I got, which was actually from Ellie, who is Nincompoop here on YouTube, one of my faves, she asked me if I also noticed the difference between Pennywise in the first film and the second film, and I have actually been thinking about this, because it was one of the first things that I really noticed, is that in the first film, Pennywise is very much a, like, Ronald McDonald baby. That's the style that they were going for. That's how Bill Skarsgård plays it. Now, I'm not saying that adults aren't scared of clowns, because I know there are people out there that are scared of clowns, but I feel like the second film had to up its game to make a clown that was scarier for adults. So they couldn't keep that, like, innocent baby look that you can have with a kid, because a kid will see a clown and they'll see a happy little clown and go, oh, it's a clown, I'll go and talk to that clown, because, you know, circuses and all that, they can approach a clown, if that makes sense. An adult has better sense in mind, and they're not going to go near a clown, no matter what it looks like. They will not go near a clown, because they'll be like, that's a clown, that's terrifying, I don't like that. You can look like JoJo's Circus, or you can look like one of the killer clowns from Outer Space, okay? An adult is not going to approach a clown. They're not going to be like, oh yeah, I'll be your friend. So in the second film, I think they had to make him more of a demonic presence than just, I'm your friendly neighborhood clown, do you want a balloon, you know? Because Pennywise knows that he doesn't need them to approach him, he just wants to scare the crap out of them. So, yeah, that went a bit off the rails, but in short, yes, I saw the difference, and I kind of really loved it, because it was like a different version of Pennywise, while still being the Pennywise that we know and love, but it was like he had to do more to scare them, because he was just, like, popping up. I did feel like his entire presence was a lot darker, and the scene he has with Vicky underneath the seats at the baseball game, I think it was, I can't remember, that was a lot more like that first scene, and I realised that we don't really have a monologue from Pennywise other than the first Georgie scene, and then we have this one again, and it's like, whoa, he's actually talking, and he talks slightly differently, and it's more demonic. But again, I think Pennywise has grown with the losers, and he realises that looking like a baby-faced clown ain't gonna be the best thing ever, because kids aren't stupid. I don't know where I'm going with this. That one shot of Beverly in the stall reaching down for Ben in the clubhouse being buried alive, that Dutch angle, which is like a diagonal shot if you don't know film, that angle was I literally gasped internally, because I was like, that is beautiful. Another thing I love, when Richie gets deadlit, it just completely shuts him down like that, and it just shows the power that it has. But also, why doesn't Pennywise deadlight them sooner? Because if deadlights bring out your true fit. Look, if I was it, I would have deadlighted them, like, immediately. Like, as soon as I began to scare them, I'd have been like, I've got ya. Deadlight. Yum. You know? I don't... Anywho. Someone asked me to discuss the fact that all the losers miraculously had amazing lives, all really well off, no one was poor. Now, I think that the way I see it is that the losers all grew up to be their biggest fears, or they grew up to kind of encompass that. So even though they had really well-off financial lives, their home lives and their mentality is far from good. And I think that kind of shows that you can have all the money in the world, you can have success, but are you truly happy? Because, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, Beverly married her father, basically, that kind of domestic abuse father. Obviously Eddie then also married his mother, so he couldn't escape that kind of controlling situation. Bill, there is no happy ending to his life. That's why he does really bad endings and stuff, because he tells them how it is. He doesn't like beat around the bush or anything. He just goes like, the world is crap. Ben, he literally lives alone. He isn't even in that meeting. He is alone in his house that is huge, and it's like a cell block. He may be super successful, but he doesn't have anyone to share that success with, until obviously Beverly comes along at the end. Stanley is just terrified, and I think has probably the best life, because he's just chilling, he's just doing his little puzzles, he's just living his best life with his wife, and he's like finally having some fun, and then realizes that he literally like commits suicide because he can't go back to Derry. He's that scared. So I don't think he's ever had like a great life. Like, he's always had that conflicting fear. Richie obviously has a really good, successful comedic career, but he doesn't write any of his comedy, and he's alone in that. He can't share that experience that I'm sure he would have loved to, because you can be a comedian to as many people as you want to be, but if you're not being funny to people that truly care about you, that's just kind of sucks. And also people that are like scared of their own emotions and sad and stuff use comedy to kind of deflect that situation. And obviously, being a homosexual man who couldn't come out, he uses comedy to kind of mask that pain. And finally, Mike is stuck in the town that he's feared for all his life, and he isn't necessarily successful. Yes, he's like the main librarian of the town now, but he hasn't been able to escape his childhood, like, at all. And he's kind of forced to stay where he hates. He has to go through knowing exactly what happened and know that it's come back and could get him at any moment. It's like that idea that even though it wasn't tormenting them for those 27 years, it was still tormenting them, just not in that way. Which I think is a really cool thing about this story, is that it's so much more than just a clown. There is so much to it. I'm going to quickly touch on the things, really quickly, that I didn't love. The first one being a production choice, which they couldn't have got around any other way. That is the de-aging that was needed on a few of the losers as kids, because obviously they grew up, okay? If you've seen Stranger Things, you know how much Finn Wolfhard, who plays Richie, grew up. And if you've seen Shazam, Jack Dylan Grazer has grown up. So they had to de-age the actors by using CGI. And the way they did it was they filmed all of the scenes, and then they got the actors back in, scan their face, and then the CGI people would come in and go over their acting and kind of de-age them that way. It's a very complicated process. It takes a long time. I applaud them for doing it. And I'm not having a go in any way of them doing that, because obviously they needed to. The only thing that I found was it took me out of the scene, because I knew that they don't look like that, so I knew that it was CGI. I know a lot of people who probably don't watch Stranger Things and haven't seen them grown up now would just be like, oh, that's them, because all they've seen is It Chapter 1 and then Chapter 2. So I get that on that stance, but for someone that's watched the first film so many times, I know what they look like and what they sound like. Most of the time it was just Eddie and Richie that I was like, I can tell. The other thing is beat Richie. If you've read the book, if you've watched the miniseries, you know that this is something that the losers say to Richie when Richie goes too far. Now, in It Chapter 1, Pennywise says, beat Richie, which is a nod to obviously the book. But then apparently there was a massive outcry from fans of the first film because they didn't use it as the losers saying it to Richie. So, in the second chapter, Bev just kind of says it offhand when Richie is walking into the house, the creepy house where Pennywise resides, and he says, like, I love what he's done with the place, and then Bev goes, beat Richie, which, if you've read the book, if you watch the miniseries, you completely understand. If you haven't, and you've only watched chapter 1, it's so weird, because it's like Pennywise said it, and now they're saying it, but they never mentioned that the losers said it first, so it kind of just felt like we're gonna put that one in there. If they'd done it a couple of times, sure, but it's the fact that it's just that one time, and it's like, I get it, but like to other people it just kind of felt very forced and very much like, well, why didn't you just do it from the start, you know? That's the only other thing, I think. I can't think of any other things I didn't like, because I liked it all. This is my film student brain talking. I love the colour grading of it, specifically the I know your secret, your dirty little secret scene. I really liked the colouring of that. The funfair, every moment of that was beautiful. Yeah, I really liked it. Also, I know a couple of you guys like when I talk about sound, random sound bits that I've noticed. If you've listened to the soundtrack, if you haven't, go and listen to it. If you have, you'll know. There are moments when oranges and lemons sing the bells of St. Clements. That is put into the score, but like very sporadically, and you kind of like close your ears and you miss it, you know, like blink and you miss it kind of thing, but for your ears. I don't know, but it's very like a random like, and then taken out really quickly, so it kind of nods that Pennywise is nearby or something like creepy's happening when you hear that noise. Also, they made the score sound like someone had a balloon and was twisting it, because obviously it's a lot of strings and stuff, but it sounded like the balloon about to pop, which just makes me uncomfortable, but I loved it. And also, when Vicky is underneath the... We've been through this, the chairs thing, and she's like, Pennywise is about to munch on her face. She obviously has her birthmark on her face, and she taps it, and it actually, like, they decided to add the noise of her tapping her finger to her face, and I love that. It's the weirdest, smallest thing, but I just really appreciate that. Also, Pennywise sounds like Winnie the Pooh when he says hello in that scene. But that's all the sound things, I think. One thing I forgot to mention was Mrs. Kirsch, okay? So, that whole scene is amazing, but I can't be bothered to go into all the detail of why I love that scene, blah, 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 blah. Also, Pennywise ripping his face down, and I loved. The thing I loved the most, though, was the fact that Beverly doesn't actually look at Mrs. Kirsch any time that she's transitioning from the happy little old lady to boobs out, creepy, tormenting lady thing. I don't even know what to call it. Beverly isn't looking, okay? So every time that it decides to be Mrs. Kirsch but naked is purely for the happiness of it. It's purely it having a laugh, okay? When it does that weird little like walk, it's happiness. Its own being, okay? It's just freaking hilarious, okay? Obviously it was done because we see it as an audience, but if you just take us out and just have that moment as a scene, it's just funny because it's just doing it for the lols, and it's just really funny. I also really like Pennywise coming out of the locker like, a-ba-doo, woo. I liked that moment. Also, I love the fact that Bill just like is terrifying that child, being like, don't go there, don't go there. The child goes anyway, then goes into the creepiest fun house in the fun fair, and then gets absolutely annihilated by Pennywise because Pennywise is hungry, and they don't ever touch on that again. So was it something that was just in Bill's mind, or did it actually happen? If it did actually happen, that just shows how crap the people of Derry are, because nobody said anything about any of the kids dying. Wait, that's my thoughts on it. That was a very long review, but yeah, I think that's everything I want to touch upon. If there's anything else, I'll probably say something about it on Instagram or Twitter or something. Follow me on Twitter because I'm talking about a lot of things, specifically the fact that I want a Funko of Eddie with a knife in his face. Funko, please make it happen. But yeah, that's my thoughts and opinions on It Chapter 2. Definitely one of my favourite films of all time now, because obviously I'm putting 1 and 2 together. As soon as they bring out like a complete box set, I'm gonna buy it so I can live my best life. I am Pennywise Trash. If you yourself loved the film, hated the film, have opinions on it, just want to say hey, comment section is always open for any of that. I'm usually there reading. But that is going to do it for today's video because my throat's hurting and I need to go to work. So if you enjoyed it and you want to carry on watching this space, I do theme park videos, Disney videos, film reviews, other things that my mind creates, then please do not forget to subscribe just here, and then just down here on Pennywise's face will be a link to a recommended video. But until next time, bye!